There's a game that's played very often now all around us. It's a game psychiatrist Eric Berne described years ago in his book, Games People Play. He called it the game of Ain't It Awful? A game is not played intentionally, but unconsciously and automatically for a payoff. And in the case of Ain't It Awful, I engage you about the negative realities of our shared world. Do you know what the COVID death toll is now in the US? Or you can't trust what the media tell you now? Or have you seen that homeless encampment along the freeway? Yeah, ain't it awful? And when I play this game, the payoff is that I get to feel superior. I get to complain, and I can detach myself from responsibility to bring positive change. I get to curse the darkness, and in doing so, I raise myself above it. Now, unfortunately, cursing the darkness actually tends to drag me more deeply into it. You may have noticed that in our negative climate, the game of Ain't It Awful has become Ain't You Awful? And we'll see that in our politics and in our social media posts. And in my railing against what is evil around me, or just contrary to what I think, or in my rant against you, I'm not fighting the darkness. I'm becoming the darkness. Self-satisfied, superior, detached, with a corrosive smugness. Now, John, one of the first followers of Jesus, wrote a lot about the darkness in the world. And he revealed in his confessional moments that he himself became the darkness and asserting himself above everybody else. You know the stories told in the gospel. John was part of those who is the greatest debates that occurred repeatedly in that small fellowship. There were also plenty of who is the worst debates. Yeah, ain't you awful? But it was John who passed along to us Jesus' declaration, I am the light of the world, John 8. And Jesus continued, whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Now that's what Jesus said, clearly showing that how he was meeting the darkness was to be the light of life. And John has his own telling of the Christmas story, which is often overlooked. No Bethlehem, no manger, not even any angels, just him. Here's John's story. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. And we have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. That's his story. Brief and compelling, and no games. No, ain't it awful? Not even, ain't you awful? Just his light. The true light that brings light to everyone. Now, this story is harder to tell in a Christmas pageant, but it's still being told as powerfully as it was 2 millennia ago. You see, John wrote his story in the present tense. You see that all the way through. An emphasis on the now. It's always, for John, a now. Jesus is the light that gives light to everyone, present tense. And the light shines in the darkness, again, present tense. And the darkness has not overcome it. His light is undarkable, now as ever. There was plenty of darkness even way back then. And Jesus entered it and was fully aware of it. I must recognize that Jesus initiated the beauty and power of his kingdom in the midst of persisting, oppressive darkness. This meant that evil in all its forms and the corruption of the human mind and heart was still ever present. He was immersed in the tension between big government, Rome, and local government, with its concerns about taxes and the free practice of religion. His birth in Bethlehem occurred because of a big government mandate. In the darkness that surrounded him, people pursued their self-interest and had impure motives, even those closest to him. And he was politically aware, knowing of the corrupt and expedient Herod Antipas, calling him that fox in Luke 13. And he was aware of the crushing authoritarianism of Pontius Pilate. Yes, again, Luke 13. He entered the discussion of Pilate's brutality quite a while before he stood alone on Pilate's stone pavement to defend his own life. He taught us to expect that in human society, both the good and the evil, the good grain and the weeds, would grow together in close proximity. He taught us that, even so, let your light shine before others. Don't put it under a bushel basket, Matthew 5, is in that well-known children's song. His light, my light. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. How we can shine brightly, even through the darkest of dark. More on this next time. But for now, far beyond, ain't it awful? Or ain't you awful? Ain't he glorious and full of light? The true light. The true light that brings light to everyone. Merry Christmas.